Welcome to the Alsco Uniforms It Pays to Keep Clean podcast, where we discuss industry best practices, celebrate big wins, and share stories about Alsco's growth journey. Andrew Steiner, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dana?
I'm doing okay, too. So in all of this time we've been doing the podcast, we haven't had the opportunity to speak with you yet. So thanks for sitting down for a little bit today so we can pick your brain.
Of course.
So you are Chief Financial Officer for Alsco Uniforms, but that's not where your history with Alsco starts. So I thought maybe we would take ourselves back to kind of your first role within Alsco and how you kind of hopped around quite literally the world to learn more about the industry and then how you landed in your role today.
Okay. So I, as you might imagine, I started with Alsco very young.
Yes.
At a point when I couldn't yet drive a car, was not allowed on the production floor, long before we implemented ABLE. And I was working in the AR department of the Salt Lake branch.
Okay.
Preparing skips, which was skipped invoices where they pay on either side of an invoice and try to hope you won't catch the one. We were very worried about the Y2K bug because that was coming up. Turned out to not be an issue.
Right.
And then I kind of went off and did other things for a while.
So I think the first time I met you, it would have been after your Salt Lake visit, but you were doing a summer internship in the IT department or something.
I did that for a couple of years as well.
Yeah, and it might have been the last time that you and I were, I think we might have been the same height back then. So,
okay.
And then you had another chance to shoot up after that. But so you did the Salt Lake gig, then you were an IT intern at one point, and then what happened?
And then I left for college.
Yeah.
And I spent a long time in school. I think I, in total, racked up, it would have been 32 years in school.
Oh my gosh.
So
that includes grade school and
grade
stuff.
school
Okay.
all the way through
All right.
when I'm done.
Yeah.
32 years.
Okay.
It's a staggering amount of school. But
you enjoyed it, I
yes.
assume, though, or you wouldn't have kept going. Yeah.
Yes, it was fun.
Yeah.
So pursued other things for quite a while, and then decided to come back into the business after doing a rotating family board seat while I was in law school.
Mm-hmm.
And
was that what renewed your interest maybe to come into the business, or had you always kind of thought that might be your plan?
Thinking about that, I kind of said, okay, I'm going to change course back to what I wanted as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And then spent did a summer internship at the Salt Lake branch, which was a bit different. This time I was old enough to be
right.
on the production floor
Yeah.
on a route. Did a couple, several weeks on routes.
Kind of rotated through positions, I assume. And, Okay.
Worked on the soil floor for a while, washroom for a while.
Yeah, good.
Kind of did a lot of that hands-on work. And then finished up law school. That was the summer between my second and third year of law school.
Okay.
And then after taking the bar, I moved to Australia and started my full-time work with Alsco over there as an assistant production manager. So manager in the title, but no one actually reported to me.
Right.
So no real managerial
Well,
authority,
and I'm sure
but
you noticed too that at that point maybe you assumed that a lot of things were going to happen the way that you saw it at Salt Lake. I'm sure you'd been to other branches too, but still you go to one of the international operations and it really can open your eyes to all the different ways that these processes, still the same processes, but all the ways that they can really take shape.
And I had not seen very many branches. I mean, I visited a few growing up, and then went on a business trip with my father and uncle to Germany right before going to Australia. And it's weird to go on a business trip while unemployed, but it works sometimes.
Yes.
So moved over to Australia, kind of got a sense of the way that operation worked, the way they account for holidays, handle billing is all pretty different than in the US.
Yeah.
And then became a service account manager at a different branch in Australia, which is the North America equivalent of a DM.
Okay.
and was in that role for, I think, about 4 months. And then the service manager was promoted, and I stepped into the service manager role and was there for close to 9 months, I think, before then being an assistant GM back at the branch where I had started.
And these were all Sydney area branches, right?
It was the Sydney branch, and then to Campbelltown.
Okay.
And then back to Sydney. So
okay.
It was nice. I was living pretty close to Sydney, so it went from a very short commute to a longer one. And
right.
Short.
Yeah, great city though.
And then moved back to the U.S. to run the Houston West branch, and then ran Region 1 for a little while, and then became the CFO a little over 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. That's so you were in Australia about 2 years all up, is that? Or
just shy of 2 years.
Yeah, just shy of 2 years.
That was how long my visa was
okay.
2 years.
Yeah. So. Well, you got in a lot in that period of time, so at least you were very mindful of, how much you could do in that 2-year period. So that sounds good. And no visa required for you to stay here in the United States for as long as you want, I assume. So that's right. Good. So CFO, let's talk about that role. Is that something that you aspired to at a certain, did you always think that might be a good fit for you? Is it a good fit for you now that you've tried it out for size for a while, and how are you enjoying that role?
It's something that I think never really occurred to me until the offer came up. Mm-hmm. And part of that was I didn't really have that financial background. Mm-hmm. And so I may have had the way of thinking that would support it. And one of my undergrad degrees was in math, so I have a measure of comfort with numbers,
right?
But not really that financial background that I think we have classically had in that role. Since my father was the CFO for close to 20 years, I saw that, and it seemed like it would be a good role, but I didn't really expect that I would ever really be qualified for it.
Okay.
Especially coming up through operations.
Right.
Being in it, fortunately, I have a really good team behind me, and that they can fill in a lot of the things that I don't really understand.
On the discipline of things that may not be quite what you know.
But I think it does suit me pretty well. Mm-hmm. I am fairly detail oriented. I do look at, is this a good financial investment for all the investments that we make?
Right.
And really try to assess that and make a solid case for everything we do.
Right. So how do you feel that your experience and exposure in operations has helped inform your role as a CFO? Is it important, not important? Do you feel like you can play the CFO role better with that background?
I think it has made a big difference. Okay. Because I'm able, when I assess those investments, I understand what factors are at play, which softer factors might happen as a result that we can't really see a clear
harder to predict
benefit from, but that are reasonably foreseeable. And then also thinking through kind of the way all those pieces fit together.
You're seeing more of a full picture rather than just, if you were analyzing just what was on a piece of paper through the numbers, you might often come to a much different conclusion.
Yeah.
It might still be the right one, by the way, but it's much, the travel there, the path there is much different. Yeah. It's probably, I would imagine, easier to communicate to the field or to operations why something may make sense, given that you can kind of see it from that perspective rather than you just handing down a policy.
I hope so. It really would be the operations people that could better answer if that's effective communication.
Right.
But I found when I was regional manager for Region 1, it was very powerful that I had been a GM to having that credibility. And I think when we start talking about some of those policy changes, having been in those roles makes a big difference to the credibility and the ability to make meaningful moves within the organization, especially because the field doesn't see me as some outsider that has come in and
Right.
They know I've walked in those shoes.
Right. Yeah. So, talk to me a little bit about the different departments that are under the chief financial officer, and some of the goals or initiatives you have for those groups.
Starting off, we have the legal department, which has been gradually growing. They now have a total of 4 people with 3 attorneys and a paralegal. I think there's probably additional room to keep growing that department and better support some of our initiatives towards enforcing customer contracts, all of sort of the things that will move the needle through the organization.
Right.
We have not had legal support within the company for a surprising amount of time, given how long we've been in business.
Right. And the size of the business that we're running and the breadth and diversity of it across to the countries. And yeah, that's incredible.
And so having Addie there to help coordinate that, I think, has helped move things along and make us a lot better. And then accounting and finance, which is Scott Klima, that he has been very good at trying to drive change and say, how can we help do our part to help the company grow, and figure out ways to ultimately support getting to yes, to take one of Ben Fox's terms there. So that's been very helpful. Also the tax department, and Lisa Lindbergh does a really excellent job in mitigating our tax obligations, taking some aggressive positions in order to really help manage some of the cash flows so that we are paying all of everything we owe.
Right.
But
no more. And
more. And we're being fair and aware of all of our obligations to the government. And the various foreign governments that we work with as well. So IT also reports to me, and that's gotten a fair amount of energy towards what does the IT landscape look like? Are we effectively using our resources? And then what's going to set us up to be the best we can be tomorrow in supporting our customers, and really maintain a customer-focused mentality. Also, risk reports to me, and I've taken a pretty active role in trying to get our property insurance listed, and have driven some meaningful cost savings there, as well as changing sort of how we account for that in the branch P&Ls. And then also some of the geo admin tasks, which are overseen by Shanda Maple.
Yeah. So let's talk about safety for a minute, because I do know that has, for whatever reason, and that's what I'm going to ask you about, been really near and dear to your heart. And as a corporate initiative, obviously, it's been very important. It's one of our core values, but it seems like you glommed onto it in a really almost visceral way, like it is meaningful to you. And so that would have started prior to you being regional manager, though certainly more influence in that position perhaps. But is there something that you saw in Australia or some of your other trips that kind of made that important for you? Or is it where you thought you could make the most impact? Just talk a little bit about why that's so important to you.
I think part of that is my role as a member of the Steiner family. And one of the important things we do in our community is provide jobs and take care of our people. And sending them home safely is one of the most important things we can do.
Right.
So that, combined with starting in Australia and their safety program and seeing how robust that was, and our ability to move the needle, just having a backdrop of a culture of safety is unquestionably a top priority.
Right.
And so then coming to the US and working in Texas, I found that it was such an opportunity area for us to get better. And it was something that had resonated with me in Australia, but then also I could carry forward, and it transferred fairly well, while also being one of our core values in a space that we can do so much better.
Right.
In a way that makes the lives of every employee better.
Right. Right. So, how do you view your role? You've had experience in operations. Now you're kind of on the other side for whatever that means. But how do you view that interplay between your role now and operations? How do you kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on out there? Because of course things do change, initiatives change, people change. How do you view that?
It's interesting to frame it as on the other side, because we have done so much to try to remove silos in the organization,
right.
that I really try not to think about it that way. But there are a number of things that I do to try to stay engaged. And one of them is, Jim has his monthly meetings with his team, and attending those and kind of seeing both, the results I see and I look at on my own.
Right.
But the things beyond the results,
right.
that
the
are
conversation
what's coming,
around the results.
How are we framing the narrative? What are we going to do about this in order to continue to move the needle the way that we want to? That's one piece of staying engaged. I look pretty closely at almost essentially every CR that comes through North America, at least. And watching those and seeing the developments and the way that we're spending money to make the business better is part of keeping a finger on the pulse to see how we're going about making the business better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a way that I can take a pretty active role to give feedback on, is this a reasonable way to spend the money? And the vast majority of the time it is. I think, some of the GMs may feel like I push back a bit, but some of that is making sure that it's the right thing to do for the business for the long term, that we're making the investments in places where it's going to be meaningful and move the needle.
Right. Well, and you're part of the conversation. Maybe to them, maybe they didn't realize you were going to be part of the conversation when they sat down to do their rationale or to enter the information. But that back and forth is you being a part of the conversation and hopefully getting to the best conclusion for everybody.
And that's also part of, being in that conversation.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of, if you look at the memo chains, it kind of is a conversation.
Right. Yes, I'm sure it is. Sure it is. It's like a skit and a play all in one. So for 2026, we've just finished up Q1. We've had a good quarter, so I know everybody's, high and happy about that. Obviously, there's always another quarter, another year, another 135 years if you're a member of the Steiner family. So what does the rest of 2026 look like from your standpoint? And kind of where do you see some key improvements or key opportunities for us?
I think whether we're doing well or poorly doesn't make as big a difference. You continue to analyze what happened and what you need to do to continuously improve in a lot of the same ways. And so I think we all breathe a little easier having had a good quarter. But 1 month doesn't make a year, a quarter doesn't make a year.
That's right.
And 1 year does not make 135-year history.
That's right.
So it's a step in the pathway. I think we have some bigger projects coming that we're starting to work on, think about, and there's a planning phase, an execution phase, and then part of that execution phase is making those things a viable reality. And I think a lot of what 26 is going to be focused on is analyzing what's working and why it's working and understanding how we can replicate that.
Right. So one last topic that I know is kind of near and dear to your heart. So you can talk about it from a personal level or professional level, but artificial intelligence, AI, and there obviously a lot of that in the news. We're starting to kind of figure out how best to incorporate it into the organization in a more formal sense. Certainly people have been using it up till now in some casual ways or ways that are integrated into other tools that they use. But talk to me a little bit about what you think the promise of AI is and how it may be most effective for Alsco.
I think there's a lot of potential to streamline many of our processes. I don't know that it necessarily means eliminating people from the processes at this point, especially and maybe not in the future, given the importance that we play to providing jobs within our communities. I think where you'll really see an impact, and it will be very disruptive, is when AI and robotics start having a meaningful interplay.
Yeah.
That hasn't really happened yet. It's probably several years on the horizon. But that will be a extremely disruptive move throughout essentially the entire worldwide economy.
Right.
I think there's a lot of potential for it to sort of snowball, where I use AI to write an email to you, and then you use AI to summarize my email,
right.
and then see essentially the email that I probably should have written in the first place, and then write the email that you think is appropriate to respond, and then AI tweaks it, and that kind of cycle of unnecessary processing.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think there's probably some of that happens. There's also a lot of being able, so AI is really good at unstructured data.
Right.
And being able to look at some of the things within our branches that we have. I mean, we have massive amounts of data as a company.
Right. All the customer communications and tasks and messages inside of Able even.
And we have tried to structure it in a way to be able to analyze what that is. But there's a lot that's lost in the pieces that are fundamentally unstructured. And so I think there's a lot of potential there to really understand what's happening in the business in ways that we haven't been able to before, and be a lot more proactive and make moves that are going to make us better to do business with for our customers.
Right, right.
But at the same time, the risk factor of AI is also huge, and trying to figure out how we mitigate that as an organization. And I probably worry too much about that. So there's a lot of most things I would not put into AI and trust to be okay, even if I'm saying don't share my information and don't use this to teach the model and all of that. If it's things that you're comfortable with getting out there, then it's easier to say, okay, we'll use AI in this case. We have just launched an AI model that kind of walls off our data and does a pretty good job of that. That really went live about a week ago. So we don't have a lot of traction and experience.
Right.
And it also, for being more of a chat interface, doesn't really give us direct interface to a lot of our data that gives that ability to extrapolate and tell us those meaningful things. But that's probably what's next on the horizon once we get comfortable with it and see the real power of what it can do.
Yeah, I think even though, the example that you use of the emails and then summarize the email, and I just saw that feature in Outlook the other day, the summarizing the email. Well, the email is like 100 words long. I'm thinking I can do that, but I wanted to see what Copilot would come up with just for fun. And so I think to the degree that people are playing with it just to gain comfort in a process, there may not be huge value add, but it is that slow introduction to then feeling comfortable and starting to imagine different ways, valuable ways, where you really could shortcut some time with your work or get from a blank page to something that then allows you to use your brain on the something rather than stressing from how you get from the blank page to something. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think, we have to start stretching that prompt generation muscle in a way that is low stakes enough that we can feel comfortable. And so, I've started doing that myself. I signed up for a chat GPT thing and then created my own GPT that links to Strava, so I can it can coach me on my own fitness goals and it's been a very
like
interesting and informative
coach in a way. Yeah.
And it looks at my Strava account and essentially says you're working too hard.
Right.
And
poor thing.
I was surprised that, you never expect a coach to take it easier.
Right.
But it's been interesting to be able to get some comfort with that because that required a surprising amount of coding to make it work.
Right.
And I have very little experience coding, despite those summers in IT.
Right.
But I also look at my brother, who's very comfortable with AI and has been using it for quite a while. And you have to have that low stakes engagement to really understand what it can do. It's kind of like the early days of the internet. We weren't using it for commerce. It was...
Well, you'd never had it before, so you didn't see in the first instance, you don't see the need. Now you're wondering how you ever lived without it. It's a weird thing that happens over time. And I even think, traveling a lot for work, and now you've got GPS and you can connect your phone, and just all the iterations that we've been through from that. And earlier in my career, it was carrying around the big maps with you, and then it was printing it off of MapQuest, and then it was, so it's all these different iterations. And I imagine it felt painful at the time, but we all survived it. Like here we are. So I think AI, even in the moments where it may feel a little uncomfortable, or somebody's telling the gremlin stories that make you all like really concerned. And it's not that some of that is not true. It is just an incomplete story of all the things that it's going to. People used to talk about that, about the printed book back in the day, like when the printing press came out, that was the gremlin in the room. Well, now it's AI. So we'll see how we go.
We're still in the infancy of this technology, and we don't really know what direction it's going to take, how it's going to change the world. But it almost certainly will change the world.
Right.
It's not going to be Betamax.
Right. Well, that sounds like a great note to leave it on. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dana.
Thanks. That's all for today's episode of the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of Alsco uniforms, where we explore the growth and challenges in our industry. Tune in next time for more industry insights, growth strategies, and tales from the field. If you've enjoyed our time together, please leave us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want to learn more about our services, visit us at alsco.com. From all of us here at the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast and Alsco Uniforms, thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay clean, and we'll see you in the next episode.